Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Designs. So today we are going to be making this bracelet here. And this is going to be take 3, I think, of this bracelet because I keep losing the video, or I'm off camera, or something just keeps happening. And when I go to edit the video, I end up not liking it. So with that being said, I am going to make sure I am in frame as much as possible. So I've lowered my camera so I can actually work through my camera. So what I did is I cut some wire, and it's approximately, because I'm going to measure this way, we'll do this. It's approximately 30 inches. It doesn't have to be this long. And I've bent them in half, and I've got 3 pieces. So to make this bracelet, and I'm going to use this one so you can see the pattern on it. It's a braiding technique. So you're going to take one of your wires, and this is 20 gauge, and I am just going to bend it until I have a loop, and I'm going to do it this way because I'm left-handed. And I am just going to give it a twist, okay? Doesn't matter which way you twist it, as long, it doesn't matter which way you hold it or twist it, as long as it's, you twist it in the same direction. Now, I've done that. I'm going to take a second one. So I'm just making my loop at the end. I'm going to take a second one. And while this is not quite even, I'm going to even this out a little bit more here. And again, I'm going to get my bend. I'm going to stick this through one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it through my hole. Just slide it right on through. So it doesn't matter if you go up or down, however you want to do it. You just want to get it so that it is right up to your twist, and I am going to hold it there, but I am going to take my wire and I'm going to bend it as close to the edge of this as I possibly can, and I'm going to bend these into almost a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to give it a twist. So now we're just getting these items put on, so this part is going to look a little bit weird to start out with. Don't worry, it'll look better once we get going. And it'll get much easier once we get going. So now I'm going to do the same thing with this next wire. I'm going to go back through that top loop, get my wire in, and make sure that I pinch it. Now I'm going to set this down on the table just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking the bottom one, and I'm pulling it as tight as I can, and I'm taking this other one, which needs to be over top of, and so right now it's underneath that one. It needs to be over top, and that one needs to be under. And we are going to pull it as tight as we possibly can and give it a twist. That is just going to anchor your 3 pieces together. This is by no means ready to start weaving yet. You need to make sure that these are all nice and flat and tight down. And so there. So now I've tightened them up, and they're kind of loose and floppy. They're going to be until we start braiding. So now you have to decide which one's over and which one's under. I've already decided because this one, as you can see, goes over. So then this side here, this wire here has to come under. So when I say over, if you look really closely at my twist, I'm twisting this side here, which is down on the bottom. I'm bringing him up. And then this side, which is on the top, is going to come under. You want to make sure that you're always going opposite. So right there, these 2 wires are going over top of my center twist. So I want to bring this guy underneath like this, and this guy over the top like that. as close as I can get to my other twists, and then I'm going to give it a twist. And as you can see, this one that was underneath now has come over the top. And then I am going to make sure these are straight out at a 90-degree angle from my bracelet. Okay? And so there's my first twist. Now let's do that again. So I'm coming underneath, and I'm going to pull it so that it's almost 90 degrees. I'm going to take this front one here and pull it over so it's almost a 90 degrees. And I'm going to give it a twist. Okay? And I know my fingers are getting in the way, sorry. Unfortunately, it's really hard to do this kind of a braid without getting your fingers in the way. And as you can see, I'm forming my nice pattern. So now we're going to keep going. We're going to do that again. And as you do this, make sure you are holding on and it's tight. You don't want it underneath, but you also don't want it too loose either. You want to make sure it's as tight as it possibly can go and give it one twist. Now you can give it 2 twists if you want. It'll just make it a little bit longer. I think 1 twist is fine. And so I'm going to do that with you one more time, and then I'm going to pause it and continue working on this for a little bit until I get to the next talking point, which is going to be what happens when it starts twisting up. All right, and so there we go again. I will do one more with you. Make sure those twists are as tight as you possibly can get them to your braid. Again, underneath, pull, over top, pull, and twist. All right, so I'm going to work on this off camera until I get a nice long braid and it's ready for the next step, and I will be back. Okay, so I'm back for a quick talking point here. So if you start to see this where your wires are starting to come up, or you're starting to find that it's super misshapen, just go ahead and take a plastic mallet and a block if you have it, or if you don't, you could just do it on, just something, and just kind of tap it down a little bit and then continue working, because it's going to get misshapen, and we are going to get it so that it's perfect here at the end. All right, so I'm going to continue working, and I will be back. Okay, guys, one more thing real quick. If you start to notice that your wire is starting to twist where it's not straight and you're having a hard time controlling it, just take either flat nose, or you can take nylon pliers and just kind of twist it so that it's back to being smooth. And I'm just straightening out my wires here with the nylon pliers just because I want them nice and smooth, and I want them and remember, you need to keep them at right angles to your bracelet. Otherwise, it's going to start to go a little bit wonky, and you don't want that. All right, so I'm going to continue working. I've straightened out my wire, and I will be back when we're long enough for doing the rest of the bracelet. Okay, guys, so I have about 7 inches from this point here to where I've finished my braid. So roughly 7 inches, a little shorter. I could probably do one more. I want this 7 inches. And then again, this is going to be a bangle bracelet. So even though it's got a clasp on it, I want it to be big enough that, to be honest, you could slide your whole hand through. The only reason why the clasp is there is to help hold it onto the wrist. So as you can see, mine is kind of all twisted and mangled, and that's fine, because what we're going to do is we're going to put it on my block, and with my hammer, I'm going to start hitting it. And as you can see, it's starting to flatten out. And if I still need to, I can twist it a little bit. And as you can see, as I start to hammer it, it starts to get a little bit neater. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on its side. and make sure I'm hammering it on its side at a right angle to, and that is going to smooth it out this way as well. Now you don't have to hit this hard, you just have to hit it just gently, and keep in mind this is going to it's going to make it a little bit longer. So you just need to make sure that when you're doing it, and you can hammer it from both directions, and it's still a little twisted. So I am going to just twist it just ever so, and give it a nice hammer to make sure it's even. And then I'm going to hammer it once more this way to make sure this looks smooth. And as you can see now, we have a perfect braid. Whereas before it was a little wonky, it was a little out of sorts. And so to finish this off, we just need to wire wrap these, and I'm going to make a loop. So you can do it in several ways. You can make your standard loop where you take, one of the wires and make a loop and wire wrap it. But to finish off these, we don't need 6 wires to make a wire wrap. So these two right here, this one and this one, which are my center 2 wires, centermost wires in this braid, I'm going to take these two and I'm going to wrap them up, and I'm going to pull them down so that they're over top of this outer wire. I'm going to cut those off and then just tuck in my ends. And again, I know I had extra long wires, but you can save those for other wire wrapping, making head pins, eye pins. And now I'm just going to tuck these as best I can around this wire. And I'm just going to pinch it really good. Take your time on this. Make sure you don't have any ends sticking out. Because we can hammer that again later. So that's what it's going to look like from the front side on that one. Now these, because they're coming from underneath, we could go underneath, but let's go underneath so that they're both going the same direction. So we're just going to take these and wrap them around. Now you could go from underneath and over, you could go from over, top, and under. I think that'll fit nicely in that little gap that it just created, so I'm going to cut those off. They're kind of at an angle, and actually that's a little bit long. And I'm just going to tuck these in right there against the wire. And make sure that they are not, there's no rough edges. So I just felt there's no rough edges. All right, so now we have a perfectly finished piece. So now we need to make a loop that will fit on this like this, so that we can put our clasp on. So now all I'm going to do is I am going to bend this guy in and over, because again, we don't necessarily need all of them. I'm going to bend this guy over, and I'm going to do one single twist here just so I can get that finished so that it's nice and finished off there. Okay, and try to get it in the center as best as possible. And then I'm going to pick one of the wires, and I'm going to pick this one. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to make a loop with my bail making pliers, if I can find them, or just round nose, something that you can make a loop with. Fairly big loop. So you're just going to make your fairly big loop, and you're just going to do your wire wrap. And I'm just going to wrap this around, and I'm going to go above this wire here, and then I'm going to do that twice, and that forms my nice loop. And then I'm going to cut off that end. Now keep in mind it looks a little bit loose, but we're going to finish that up here in a second. So, all right, so I've got my loop. I'm going to tuck in this end. Make sure it's nice and as tight as possible. So now we've got this other wire here, and we've got this wrap that's giving me fits because it doesn't want to stay down. There we go. Come on. You know, and make sure you've got your nice twist there. I'm going to start wrapping, and I'm going to fill in that gap, okay? And I'm pulling this as tight as I possibly can to fill in that gap and make it as neat as possible. And once you get to the other wire, you're just going to need to trim off, and I see it right there. And then we're going to tuck these two ends in together so that they're facing each other. And you have a nice tight wire wrapped, and that is on the back side, so this is your front side. And so I'm just going to take my, if I can find them, I know I put them here somewhere, my nylon pliers, they're buried, and I'm just going to pinch those wires down, make sure they're neatly together and they look good. And we have our loop so that we can then put on a clasp, but we're not quite there yet. So we've got our loop and we've got our bracelet. So now we need to shape it. You can do this on, you know, a Mod Podge thing. You can just wrap it around. I purchased a bracelet mandrel just because this is more of a natural wrist shape. And so I'm just going to start forming it and just gently bending it around my mandrel here. And I know you can't see that because it was off camera. It was sticking up. But I'm just going to start bending it around the mandrel. And I'm going to hold it and just bend it. Now keep in mind, it's not going to want to, because this is a very stiff braid, it's not going to want to stay down. So what you can do is, while you have it laying down here, you can take your plastic, if I can get the other bracelet off of it, and just give it a nice little tap. It'll hit it down, and then you've got yourself a nice bracelet. Of course, you can always manually bend it, like I just manually bent it a little more. And so I think we're good to go. And then you can try it on the wrist. It's a little bit big. Again, just bend it. Make it nice. Make it a nice round shape. And there we go. Now, to finish it off, all we have to do, and this is fairly simple if I can find them, I just need to find my clasps, and I don't think I put them back. I had them here somewhere. Too many things out right now because I've been doing a lot of stuff for Christmas, and I've been doing a lot of stuff. So, there we go. They're right in front of my face. All right. So we're just going to take a, lobster claw and a jump ring. And I am just going to Open up my jump ring. Grab onto my loop. Put my clasp on. Close my jump ring. And there you go. That is if I can get it open. There we go. And just clasp it on. And there we go. So nice finished bracelet. And again, you can manipulate it. You don't need to put the clasp on it. You can put a different clasp. You can create your own hook clasp. Like I did here on this one. There's a hook clasp that I made. You can do a toggle clasp, whatever you want, but I think the lobster claw goes very well with this because this is a nice petite bracelet. And then on this one, I cut off the ends and then sanded them down because the clasp part looked really bad with the thicker wire. So I just took it off, made it a cuff bracelet, and yep, without that. And again, you can close it up. I'm going to file this down a little bit more probably before I'm done. It's not super rough, but again, I want it a little smoother. And then I may just do some wraps on the end or do something on the end. But yeah, so you've got thicker wire is going to be a wider bracelet. 20 gauge wire is going to form a nice little petite bracelet. I think this makes a cute little bangle. So anyways, that's a quick wire braided bracelet. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if I don't see you next week, because next week is Christmas, have a happy Christmas. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. If you don't, I'm going to be taking a week off, and I will see you in the new year. Thanks for watching.